Well, this is Morten from Inkish, second day here at Hong Kong Innovation Days, and I mean, wonderful place to meet people, to see technology, to learn also a little bit about the business models and business plans that are driving this industry. And I'm meeting with a very dear friend that I actually met at Hong Kong Innovation Days 23, Andrew Gunn.
It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. I mean, every time I meet you, and I know that I often start like this, I'm often a little bit, very often blown away, because I think that you have a very clear idea of where you want to take the company you work for and how you see strategies and how you want to develop things. I was just wondering, before we talk about what it is we are going to talk about, how easy/difficult is it to get such a big company as Fujifilm aligned to one strategy?
Well, it's a good question. I think you say, like, if when you're eating an elephant, you don't worry about the whole thing. It's one bite at a time, right? So like anything else, it's when we're coming to these events, whether it's Printing United, whether it's Drupa, whether it's Hong Kong Innovation Days, Graphics Canada, it doesn't matter. You need to focus on the thing that you're there to accomplish, right? So I always say we're not five fingers, we're this fist, right? And we talk about that whole digital disruption platform, not a portfolio, but a platform, right? And in there, you've got the POD, you've got the embellishments, you've got workflow, you've got wide format, you've got B2, you have CF Inkjet, which is why we're here this week. That aggregate is that supportive story. So focus on why you're there, focus on getting good at that, and we're good at it, right? But continue to tell your story, continue to be prescriptive with applications and working with industry platforms like yourself to tell that story. And I think if you continue to do that, you chip away and get that message out there.
Okay, super great answer. And then I ask you one more time.
Okay.
How to get a large organization? Because I mean, when we talk, I don't know how many people within Fujifilm watches our film. I have no idea on how many of your potential customers are watching this film. Yeah. But and I understand the analogy about the elephant, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, I mean, if you want to, I think it was like development with the speed of light, right? With the speed of light. And the market is changing so rapidly right now,
yeah.
So there needs to be something that can move that engine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a bit of, I've used this analogy with you before, it's a bit of an art, it's a bit of a science, right? So you've got to be able to show good product to customers, to show good kit, do it quickly, make it relevant to them, but also you need to make it easy and repeatable. So we've got different things like different programs for business development, right? So when I show shiny stuff, otherwise known as embellishments, well, what are you doing to show it? We put together a business development program called the Aspire program, right? Where we go in and we make it easy for them to design, print, sell, right down to the operator level. Here's how you do it, Mr. or Miss Customer. So there's so many levels, it's very intricate, but I think the aggregate of all of those things get it, not quite to the speed of light, but pretty darn close, the speed of sound maybe. Yeah.
Okay, and so what you say is that some of the programs you develop to customers, because you engage your organization in these development of these programs.
Yes, sir.
That is how you also use these programs to, let's say, educate your own organization.
Exactly. So it's not just about educating the customer, the prospect, but it's also about educating, indoctrinating your own people, right? So you need to make sure that the folks at Fujifilm are buying into it, right? From the customer level, once we sell them some kit, that they make sure, okay, Fuji's taking care of me. If I'm in a pre-sale situation, they look at us and say, I'm going to buy with confidence knowing that Fujifilm is going to be there for me. But then also your internal stakeholders, they see that and they're, you know what, I'm bought into, right? So it's that 360 scenario that I think is really helping us get to where we need to be. But it's not just about, some of the, POD toner developments. It's also about inkjet, it's about B2. Workflow is such a big thing, but also taking the boogeyman out of things like AI, things like automation. And what does that mean once you get it down to practical levels and get it right down to, well, how does it help me on this application? Well, let us show you how. We don't have enough time here today, but that's a really big focus of ours as well.
What does it mean to you, first personally, and then secondly on your business, when we talk about disruption? How does it influence your life?
So we talk about digital disruption. Prior to that came digital transformation. And as I always say, digital transformation, it changed the game, but digital disruption changes the field in which that game is played on, right? So for me personally, it's about getting uncomfortable. It's about having conversations that, frankly, as close as 6 months ago, you weren't prepared to have, feeling comfortable being uncomfortable, understanding all these amazing disciplines that we're getting in, but being very customer-centric and saying, what are the pain points that we can help you solve for, right? But also sometimes not being not being so much of a homer, understanding that your solution might not be a fit. Maybe we go and we link arms and partner, whether it's finishing, Hunkler, somebody in the media. Also, we've got our big digital disruption reveal, which Ankish will be at. So it's about being very open-minded, being disruptive, and being comfortably uncomfortable, frankly.
So how many people works in Fujifilm?
Sorry?
How many people is employed at Fujifilm?
I don't know.
But is it like, it's more than 1,000?
Oh
10,000?
yeah, thousands. Look, we're a $25 billion company, right? So we are ready to go, yeah.
But I was just wondering, and I'm asking because, I mean, this was your definition of being a disruptor, or what it means to you.
Yeah.
So now you have, let's say, 10,000, 100,000 people that all have their own mindset a little bit on where things are going, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now you have to make that into some kind of uniform claim, because as an organization and as a company, you need to be able to, let's say, have a relatively clear definition.
Yep.
You have to have a good strategy for how it influences your business.
Yeah.
And of course you have to make the right decisions, right?
Yeah, you have to make those right decisions. So being disruptive starts with the innovation piece, right? We are so disruptive on the innovation piece. It seems like we're coming out with new offerings every single day, but tying those together and what it means, but getting, like I talked, those internal stakeholders on board so that, again, they understand what you mean by being disruptive. I know what it means, but you need to indoctrinate them to get to that PhD level of being disruptive. And you know what? Have your definition, but come back to what it means to be disruptive, and innovation really is the beginning of that disruption.
Do you sometimes, when you are sitting in your office and thinking about the future, are you sometimes doing, let's say, a scoreboard of the most innovative companies in the printing industry and trying to position yourself?
That's a good question, and my first answer would be I try not to spend too much time in my office. I try to be in front of customers. And then I like to, but look, the leader of the pack, to use a cycling term, leader of the pack sets the pace. So I certainly feel, when you look across the disciplines of wide format, inkjet, B2 inkjet, digital toner embellishments, better four color, better automation, if you are bringing out those new offerings, I think by definition, you are leading that charge. And I'd say positioning wise, I'd say that's about where I feel like we are.
So, on a top 10, how high do Fujifilm score?
I'd say 1 and 1A.
Oh.
You got to be confident, right?
That's true.
Yeah, but I will say this. There's some very worthy competitors out there that I've got nothing but respect for, and I do tip my cap to them because I always say, as those tides rise, the boats rise with it. Yeah.
And that is also, I guess, because I think I know you well enough.
Yeah.
That keeps you on your toe.
100%.
But also because that is where I think that you are intrigued in your work life, is basically where you can take it to the next level, right?
Well, yeah, you got to be inspired by that. You got to know when to sharpen the pencil a little bit and say, hey, by the way, did you notice that so-and-so are doing this? But use that to not beat each other down, but again, to rise and make each other better. And I think that we're at a point now where the industry, is going through some consolidation, and we are realizing that, hey, we are better together, right? In a lot of situations, but understanding that, hey, this is our value proposition. And the fact, I find nowadays too, and you probably notice this as well, we're at a point where feeding, finishing, workflow, everything is more collaborative now on how you work together. It's not how I can work against you, it's how I can work with you, right? Because we need to make sure that we're lifting up the folks in this industry, be it feeding, finishing, marking engines, automation, because I think when we're together and we're being great, we inspire each other to do great things.
As an American, I'm not me. As an American, if you look at the global economy right now, your GNP is about 30% higher than Europe, right? And in Europe, we are fighting a lot with, let's say, heavy industry, having difficulties moving out of that, going into the digital economy like the Americans have been great at, also together with the Chinese. I was just wondering, when you speak about all these very exciting things, and you work in a global organization, do you feel that there is also that, let's say, mind the gap thing, or?
I It depends. I mean, you've got so many more variables that come into that, right?
Good food,
Well,
good cheese, good red wine. But what else?
Those are one A, one B. But I mean, you've got different economies of scale that come into factor, right? So yeah, that does come into play. New government, right? Both on a national level, but also on a local level, right? What's being supported? I mean, you've also got bigger areas of focus around sustainability, right? I'd say you'd find in Western Europe, certainly in Western Europe, there's more of a focus on that sustainability. I think in the Americas, we're starting to get it a little bit better. So, whereas I find in Europe or in Americas, there might be more of a focus on the embellishments and paying more for it. So it's a difficult answer, but I'd certainly say there is a mind the gap. I like that as a saying. But when I find myself, if I'm doing training in front of a group and people in Americas, I do need to tweak it when I'm going around and I'm talking to folks in maybe Europe, Middle East, or Africa, or Asia Pacific, because they might have other interests and sustainability things that we need to make sure that we're ticking the box on. So again, it comes back to that whole art and the science, but I do like that mind the gap, because you do have to mind it.
Last thing here, in March you have an event that you have invited for called the Disruptive...
the Digital Disruption Reveal, yeah.
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if you tell me everything right now, then it's not a reveal on March the 19th.
But I can tease at it.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we've got 2 new very, very exciting products coming out in the EPC mid space, that's entry production color mid, and the EPC high space, so entry production color high. The great news is as you can know, we've got our embellishments on the PC 1120. We're about to triple our capabilities with 2 new offerings that will come into that space. So if I'm a customer that might not have the budget for an 1120, but I want to get into embellishments or better for color or better automation, we're bringing that all kind of downstream. So democratizing better color, better automation, and better return on investment. And who doesn't want return on their investment, right?
So good reason to come and see what you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. As always, great to talk to you.
Thank you.